Good evening to everyone and welcome to this webinar series on Airspace, Defense, Maritime, GIS and Remote Sensing Law webinar series. Before I hand over mic to Group Captain Naidu sir, he is going to moderate the series. So just brief introduction. Of course, Naidu garu knows no introduction, but formality sake I have to do that. Is a group captain. Naidu garu retired, from Indian Air Force. He held many positions, and then, of course, he ended with his, as a government career as a Deputy Director General Doordarshan, as a security officer, HR officer, and then currently is also heading the law firm called Akash Law Firm, where he is rendering multiple services to the stakeholders, including very many multinational corporations. His expertise area is air safety, security, defense, and also cyber. He is helping the government, and also he is consultant to many multinational corporations relating to cyber security related, cyber swatting, cyber security related things. Above all, he is adjunct faculty in Nalsar, and though he is alumnus of Cadal Center, but now he is part of Center for Aerospace Defense Law as a adjunct faculty. He is also helping the center, taking classes, airport management, air safety law, security law, and other things. So, of course, sir will introduce, himself bit about extra also, But I thought, just this is brief, very brief introduction, sir. It is now you have to take over and conduct the proceedings of series, not only for today, but moderator of the series for next 5 days. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, very, very good evening. And, this month happens to have the Teachers' Day as part of this month. And sir is my teacher as far as the aviation law is concerned. I have learned from him. My respects, first of all, sir, for the teacher that you are and you have been and you will be, I'm sure. Thank you so much for those kind words. Of course, aviation is a subject which attracts a lot of attention from various people, various segments of people. I remember looking at the sky once in a day when the aircraft used to fly above my village. That was the attraction that time. And I was also the air traffic controller, and where I used to like feel like the king when you have 20-30 aircraft under your control. That's another attraction. And when you sit in the aircraft, it's a different feeling as a passenger. The pilots and all the people who are around making that aircraft fly, the people fly, the cargo fly, it's all, it's attention everywhere. And today, because of corona pandemic, we're having certain problems, but that's okay. It's a temporary thing. And what I want to say is my association with Cadal is special, sir. Like you said, yes, the association with Center for Aerospace and Defense Laws is special. Last year we have done some web series, and excellent response we received. Like now we can see the number just jumping as we speak. Ladies and gentlemen, we have next 5 days lined up for you with a different subject being touched upon in the webinars, and each subject is going to be dealt with by a specialist. Today we have a specialist who is also, I will introduce him a little later, an alumni of the university, an adjunct professor of the university, and much more he has done as far as the aviation law and aviation regulatory and governance issues are concerned. Now, why we need to have this webinar? The reason we must understand. While every one of us is worried about the corona and its impact on the aviation, yes, there has been definitely adverse impact across the world, and India is no exception to it. But there is an opportunity in every calamity. And if we look at this corona pandemic as a calamity, there are opportunities even in this for aviation also. For example, the cargo flights, they have multiplied. Many of the transport operators, the passenger aircraft operators have converted their aircraft into cargo operations, made it suitable for cargo operations, and a lot of cargo has been flown during this period because other modes were not suitable. an opportunity there. There is an opportunity now, like while we are discussing this issue, the Delhi International Airport Limited is working extra and overtime to make sure that another terminal is prepared, another runway is readied, so that as and when this sector opens up, the operations are in full swing. There are many greenfield airports that have been announced by the government of India. They are coming up at full swing, like Jewar. We know for sure that the approvals have been given, and it's going to come up very soon. We have Dholera in Gujarat. We have Hirasar again. Greenfield airfields have been announced, and they are coming up. And many of the airports which are already in operations, the government of India has sanctioned a huge amount of money for upgradation and development of those airports, like Jaipur, like Guwahati, Trivandrum, we have Jagdalpur, Ambikapur, even small airports which are serving the regional connectivity under the regional connectivity scheme. Udan. Today, Aam Admi, every man must fly. Har Admi must fly. It should not remain only an ambition and a dream. It should be realized. That's what it is. The RCS is about regional connectivity scheme is about that. Okay. So now what all government is doing as far as this 1 year, I'm only talking about these things in the last 1 year when the corona pandemic has hit us. Everyone thought the aviation industry is sunk. Yes, it is been badly affected. A lot of airlines have closed across the world. In Indian context, we have seen some negative impact even before the corona, because we have seen airlines like Jet Airways going off the skies. We have had a lot of stress on the existing airlines, including the SpiceJet. But if you look at the positive side, even the SpiceJet has ordered many more aircraft now. Indigo is very bullish. Right before the corona, Indigo has touched 250 mark as far as the number of aircraft on the inventory is concerned. 250 aircraft, huge number for Indigo. So there are positive signs if we look at it. And the number of aircraft by 2027 in India are going to be multiplied. So the demand is also expected to rise in that manner. This is what is going to be 1,500 flights per day only by one airline. A large number of flights. Now, the facilities and the infrastructure, if we look at it, 25,000 crores have been earmarked by Government of India recently for improving the facilities and infrastructure. The flying academies, number of flying academies that are operating, 8 more flying academies are expected to come up very soon. 8 more flying academies. That means the number of pilots who are going to be churned out. If we have so many pilots being trained, what is the impact? What does it mean? What does it indicate to all of us? This is an important aspect. 7th airport in Assam. Within a state of Assam itself, 7th airport has been inaugurated recently. The MROs have been given discounts. Very, very interesting and small anecdote I must narrate here as far as the government actions and how we must see these actions are concerned. As a child who was going to the school in a remote village, I whenever had to get the attestation on my certificates done, the photocopies, it used to be typed and they had to be attested, and the attestation had to be done by a gazetted officer. I had one gazetted officer who was the headmaster of the school. He would say, "No, I will not sign the attestation because you are a student of mine, conflict of interest." Nice, ethical way of looking at it. The closest to the village is about 13 kilometers away, a veterinary doctor. And no one would sign the attestation free of cost those days. Now, of course, it's a different story altogether. No one would sign that free of cost. So what we used to do, students used to wait outside the veterinary doctor's hospital for a sick animal to be taken by a farmer. Along with him, you go inside, because the doctor won't come to sign attestation. He will only come to see the sick animals. That time he would sign the attestation forms free of cost. That was the difficulty level to get an attestation. The government has done something very drastic. It said, you authenticate your certificates. Now, why I'm saying this is, today the drone policy is talking about self-attestation of certificates for the drone operations. Now, how This ease of doing business is going to change things as far as the 200 startups in the drones itself in India. 200 startups. The Ministry of Defense, as far as the aerospace sector is concerned, it's bullish. It is bullish. We have got the special economic zones for the defense sector, one in Tamil Nadu, one in UP. Huge investment opportunities. Now, all of this, when we look at it, what does it indicate to us? The requirement of a large number of people. Now, where these people will come from? Nalsar has taken that initiative. I must appreciate Professor Balkrishna Reddy for the foresight and the vision to create training courses which are going to be useful in future. That means create a training course or a program which generates people readily available for the industry to be used straight away. Why I am saying this is, if a training academy is started, training after the requirement has already generated, you will only have the freshers. You will not have the middle level people and the top level people. And that's where the Nalsar University focuses. The target audience for Nalsar University is the people who can come in at the lateral levels in management of various issues. I'm sure the speaker today will be able to explain to us what all the scopes are there as far as the roles that can be performed by people, the roles that are opening up afresh as far as the aviation industry is concerned, the roles specifically with application of legal aspects. Leave alone the technical and the managerial aspects, even the legal aspects. So much of scope is there for the people to come learn here, because you are already working in a sector which is allied, which is associated with aviation. You want to top it up. The icing on the cake you want to give by going through a program which is there in Nalsar University. And that is where Nalsar scores a point as far as creating programs ahead of the times is concerned. That is the most important aspect. So hats off to the university, to Professor Balkrishna Reddy for conceiving such things. Now, why these webinars? So that we make this information available to the people. Otherwise, many of us don't even find time these days, because we are all very busy, don't even find time to scroll through so much of information overload on the internet. It's difficult to find the information. That's why these okay, the questions we will take on the questions. All the questions will be replied. Trust me, you will not go back without any question being answered. Even if the time has to be stretched, we are all there. We will take on all the questions. Okay, so what I'm saying is, the webinars are the means of spreading awareness on available opportunities. The topic rightly selected, the scope and opportunities and roles. So why we have a specialist here is only to make sure that you get the right inputs and information. You take a considered decision as to what should be your next career progression plan. What should be your preparatory actions as far as your career shift is concerned? Yes, we will address the questions. As far as your preparation is concerned, what kind of training courses, are the certification courses, are the degree courses and the diploma courses you should undergo? What will take you where? I'll narrate a small example, sir. I mean, for the participants also. I have a friend of mine, an Air Force pilot. He, first, because of some reason, he's a pilot with Indigo, and because of some reason, he was medically unfit for some time. And you know what? He underwent the Nalsar PG diploma in air labs and air transportation management. Now, when he went and told the management that he is qualified in this and he is medically unfit, straight away they have used him in the management. See how nicely he fitted into the requirement of the company. There was no loss to the company. It's an add-on advantage to the company. He's doing an extremely good job today. Now, there are many stories that I can, success stories that I can narrate as far as the people who have passed out of the Nalsar are concerned. Now, coming to the speaker for the day, we are fortunate and joining from a very far off distance, very, very far off distance. In fact, far off shores. Yes. So we have Sagar with us, Sagar Singham City. Thank you very much for joining us this evening for this webinar, and we look forward to your sharing the knowledge, inputs and information with the participants. They are all very keenly looking forward to it. Sagar is an LLM, BA LLB from Nalsar University itself, and he is founder and managing director of Aerospace and Aviation Lawyers Association of India. Trust me, he has worked with the best of the companies that people actually dream of. Whether it is e-commerce companies like Amazon, the cargo companies like FedEx, Aerocap. So he has worked in excellent companies and in roles that actually bring a lot of value addition. That is how we have him as a guest speaker today, and he will definitely, with his wealth of information that he has and the network that he has interacted with, he will definitely give us a lot of takeaways as far as uh, today's topic is concerned, especially on the regulatory issues, the legal issues, the policy matters, and how the training and the training courses and program courses of Nalsar can also be useful for the people who are joining the aviation sector newly, or shifting from one sector to the other, or those people who have already gone into the aviation sector and want to uh, change gears in terms of their career progression. Now that's where he will be very useful. He has contributed immensely towards the aviation law growth. In 2019, he has started the APJ Abdul Kalam Air and Space Law and Policy Essay competition. Very successful competition he has conducted. Excellent outcomes and deliverables from that competition. We have had fantastic articles. I am privy to those articles, Sagar. Compliments to you. Lovely articles that have come, and compliments to the university. And the whole issue is about bringing together the like-minded people. That's what you have done, and that's very important, because unless the people are talking, discussing, or putting across their views together to contribute towards growth of a particular new and emerging subject, it's difficult for the growth, difficult for the people to know what are the scopes. Now this webinar, we hope, will only enhance that awareness to the participants. With that, Sagar, I request you to please start your session. If you have presentation, you may please share with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you, Sagar. Both of you are here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a short presentation by Sagar. Thereafter, we will open the session for question answers. All questions will be answered. Trust me. And we hope we will satisfy your questions with good answers. Okay. And over to you, Sagar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Naidu sir. That was a very, very good introduction. Thank you very much. And Professor Balkisar Reddy sir, thank you for giving the opportunity as well for sharing at least some views and my experience. I would not say whether the experience is right or wrong. It's for you to decide. But what is important is for me to share my experience, and then probably there are some tidbits of information which would come handy for you. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you for being part of this session. I am Sagar Singamsetti, and I'm a first batch student of Nalsar. So I passed out from Nalsar in 2003, and in 2004, I got a scholarship from the Dutch government to do my LLM in Air and Space Law at Leiden University. Now there are more universities offering aviation and space law globally at an LLM level, but okay, during those times it was only Mechelen and Leiden University in the Netherlands. So I was lucky or fortunate to have that journey set out for me in Europe. Having said that, yeah, from 2005 onwards, I have been equally fortunate that I continue to work in the last 15 to 16 years, or 15 years, in the aviation or transportation sector in general, starting from aircraft, which is an aircraft leasing company, where I was supporting the legal team, my seniors, because I just started off then. So I was more doing all the associate level job, let's say. But it was really good, and that I had the opportunity to actually see what kind of sales or lease transactions that happen. And I have done almost close to 1.5 billion transactions supporting my seniors at that point. And I have also been fortunate to actually deliver almost close to 100 aircraft to airlines across the world, and more specifically to the Asian subcontinent, and more specifically to the Indian market, Kingfisher being one of them, where at that time, during the good times, let's say, where I had the opportunity to deliver like 4 aircraft. So again, aircraft leasing is a subject that we can discuss, and also if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask later. And then I had the opportunity to work with TNT Airways, or TNT, which is a cargo company. They have given me the first break to actually go out and negotiate contracts. So I've done 50 million, 100 million, and even 175 million. That was kind of my biggest. Not to show you that how how good or how bad I am. It's just the experience, and and that I was fortunate to get that exposure where I was at that time. So 175 million was more in reference to the 777 Boeing aircraft, where we procured 3 aircrafts, each of them costing 175 million. So I've done all the leasing and the financing side of things, of course, with multiple other teams and other external lawyers, but of course, you're part of the process. During my time at TNT, I also had the possibility not only to look into transactional work of aircraft leasing and sale transactions or aircraft sales. When I say aircraft sales, as an in-house lawyer, what you do is once the company decides to sell the older aircraft that are in the fleet, you also have to work on them to sell those aircrafts. So I've been also working on a lot of regulatory and policy issues during that time because we set up entities across the world, especially in India and in Dubai, in the Middle East. So I was doing a lot of regulatory work in order to set up the entities, but also get the right approvals for the airline to operate from Europe into India and to Middle East. At the same time, I've been also, at least that was around the time of TNT that I started off doing a little bit of policy work. So I also started engaging with government officials in order to also see how we could navigate through the policy world, because not all policies are of interest or taking the interest of the business community. So we have to have a voice on behalf of the sector, on behalf of the individual companies, because at the end of the day, every policy that comes out from the government has to have the right balance in terms of the public interest versus the commercial interests. So legal is one, regulatory second aspect, and the third aspect is the policy aspect. Okay, so those are the 3 areas I kind of worked during my time at TNT. And then as I moved on to FedEx, I was only focusing on regulatory and policy issues, where as a multinational, or especially as a US company, I was lobbying here in Brussels, where I'm currently stationed, or where I currently live, to the European institutions. So it's the European Commission, European Parliament, and the European Council. So basically, I do lobbying, or I have been doing lobbying starting with my role in FedEx. That's partly because I thought being in legal is good and great if you are interested in doing transactional work, corporate work. It's a great way to it's good to be there. But then I thought, let me go out and expand my horizon, in the sense like, why not do regulatory and policy, where there's much more visibility in terms of my own profile. So legal is good and great. You can work on your contracts, you can work on any number of other files sitting behind your desk. But to me, at least personally, I thought regulatory would open up the fact that you go out and represent the company, where you are actually the ambassador and the voice of the company and its interests. So when you go to a government official, customs official, Ministry of Aviation, Ministry of Transport, you just name it. I mean, any government body or any think tanks or any trade associations, you are the voice of the company. So you have a lot more responsibility on you. I mean, everything is, of course, for everything you have to be responsible and accountable. But the fact that you're going out and you're the face of the company, it adds a little bit more responsibility as well. And the reason why I say that is, apart from being responsible, but the reason why I say that is it also increases your visibility as an individual, but also allows you to contribute a lot more to the growth of the sector. At least that's what I believe personally, these kind of roles in regulatory and policy do. So there's no less or more, it's just a matter of interest. You know, you could pick legal or regulatory or policy role. It all depends on where you get in and how you get in as from a career standpoint. And then, of course, it goes from there.
Sagar,
So,
sorry to interrupt, just a small
yes.
interruption. There are requests for speaking a little louder. Is it possible?
Oh, sorry, sir. So I thought I was audible, but okay.
A little
Apologies,
louder.
everyone.
Yeah.
I am going to share the presentation as well, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a flow about what I did, not to boast my what what I did, but at least to share, and maybe later on you will also say ask me questions in terms of the profile that I have or that I had in the past. So, and then at FedEx, it was more regulatory and policy work that I did. And then at Amazon, I completely moved out of even regulatory. I've been doing only policy work. So that's primarily influencing the interests or influencing the policymakers by advocacy and lobbying on various issues that you could think of, whether it's e-commerce or whether it's the digital environment that we are currently in, or on the environment, or actually on the sustainability issues that currently we are all faced with when we talk about transport. Those are all some of the. I see some question there, but so those are some of the activities I've been doing in the past, and what I currently do now is I head the policy team at IRU, which is the International Road Transport Union, and I more specifically look into the passenger aspects, so passenger rights and other issues. But again, catering primarily to the commercial operators' interests, being lobbied, or we do advocacy towards the European institutions and also other national governments in Europe. So by and large, yeah, indeed, after Nalsar, after Leiden, the last 15 years have been a good journey for me, and primarily in the transport sector, because from the time that I have come across Professor Reddy sir in 1999, I think, when he taught us international law for the first time at Nalsar. It was 1999 or early 2000. In the second year or the early part of third year, we had international law course, and that was the first time that that he was talking about aviation. And then I thought, okay, so it's a very niche area, but let's see how I get on with it. And since then, I have been associated with the sector, and my interest in the sector is yeah, it continues. Not a single day that I do not think yeah, the added value this sector brings and the people in the sector. What is important in this sector is it is about people, lot more, anything more than that. It is for the people, it is by the people. Okay, so whatever the constitution says, pretty much this is what the transport sector does. And during COVID, you have seen the role of the transport sector, irrespective of which mode we talk about, whether it's aviation, whether it's road, maritime, you pick any mode of transport, and all the courses that Nalsar is offering is pretty much, it touches on each and every mode of transport, including the space sector. So that also brings me to the point which Naidu sir was saying. It's the vision that Professor Reddy sir had and continues to have. So a lot of credit should be given to him. There are a lot of global universities and global colleges that offer these kind of courses, but I'm not saying because we have to pitch here, or I'm not saying because we have to sell you something here, but it goes without saying that for the last 20 or even more than 25 years that I have known Professor Reddy sir, the courses that uh, uh, Reddy sir have set out and the courses that people have actually taken over the years, because I've been associated with Nalsar as as part of the teaching staff. But also I teach at Leiden University and I teach at other universities as well. Uh, that the point I'm trying to make here is all these courses are handy. They are very helpful for a lot of them, whether you're at a very initial stage of your career or you would like to get into the sector, or even for those people who are already part of the sector but would like to do some kind of a transition into another role, which Naidu sir alluded earlier in one of the examples. So my point is, take any course, irrespective of whether it's Nalsar or anywhere. The role of transport today is going to be much bigger. The role of individuals like yourself and myself and everyone, whether it's an academician, whether it's a corporate lawyer, whether it's a policy maker, it doesn't matter. I think transport has a big role to play. And I always believed, like even 20 years or more, when people used to think, including a lot of my friends at Nalsar, when I was telling them, hey, I'm going to do something in aviation, they were all looking at me and thinking, what's wrong with you? And like because we always take transport for granted. You take a bus, these days you take a ride hailing, a taxi, like Uber or Ola, but you don't, you just think, okay, it's there for you. But it is not as simple as that. Companies are investing. Okay, so there's a lot of interest for companies to actually go out and put a network, a huge network, which Naidu sir was telling earlier. You have 250 aircraft that Indigo has in its network. It is not as simple as we think. It is easy for a consumer. I would say, I would come back to the role of consumer later, but it is easy from an individual perspective to say, hey, it's just a simple journey from Hyderabad to Mumbai or Hyderabad to Delhi. You've taken the flight and then you go down there and then you come back again home. So, and then if something goes wrong, we complain that the airline hasn't done the right thing. So it's not, it looks seamless, it looks very simple, but a lot of things go behind it. And this is exactly where you come into picture. This is where you as lawyers or legal professionals will have a huge role to play as well. So the sector has a huge role to play because transport is a medium. Transport is a support sector for a number of other sectors: agriculture, pharma, financial sector, you name it. I say financial because financial transactions take place because they're able to meet uh, each other in person, or these days, okay, a different story, but they're able to do deals when they go and meet people. But agriculture, you have seen during COVID times, the shelves, the markets, or the shelves in the market, supermarkets would have gone empty if not for your transport companies. Okay, so again, pharmaceutical companies as well. If not for those airlines that would not have carried the vaccines in such a short time period of 24 hours or whatever, and in such in such a regulated mechanism where you have only a shelf life of few hours of minus certain degrees. So all these things, if you look into each in every bit and piece of it, a lot of details go into the operational aspects in order for having that seamless transportation system. So I'm just trying to emphasize or reiterate that transport has a huge role to play, and despite COVID, it is still going to be there. That will probably be my concluding remarks as well. But let me say that here as well, that it is a sector. It's a beautiful sector. I mean, if you look into any mode of transport, I am always fascinated in terms of what they have done or they continue to do. So if you have any doubts in terms of what this sector does or what this sector offers, do not have any doubts, just jump into it. And as someone said a few months earlier, sky is the limit. But you could also do other things. Not necessary that you have to fly every time, but even if you look into other modes of transport, you can go on the water or go on the road. They're all good modes of transport. Having said that, I will just take a step back also to just share with you something that I wanted to tell you. What is actually this air law? I don't know, because some of you are new, some of you are probably already experts in the sector. If not experts, at least you know what this sector is currently doing. So that's me once again, and let me quickly take you through some of the slides. I'm going to take the next 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes. I'm not going to get into a lot of details, but let's see. So, okay, so the origin of air law. Aviation has been there a long time. World War I, World War II, aircrafts were being built. Defense sector, of course, is one of the biggest maker and buyer of aircrafts. But as things evolved, some of these defense aircrafts were made redundant, and at the same time, there was more and more need for rebuilding the society, rebuilding the existing infrastructure. So things have to be moved from one place to another. So as is the World War, post-World War, there were a lot of things that had to be done. So therefore, some of these some of the rules on aviation had to be codified. And one of the first one.
Sagar, may I sorry to interrupt once again. Is it possible to make it into presentation mode?
Is it not?
Slides?
Oh, sorry about that.
On slideshow?
Am I still on presentation mode?
Now you go to the slideshow mode. Yeah. It's in edit mode now. Yeah. Yeah, your notes are visible. Okay, fine.
It doesn't matter, sir. They can read as well. But no worries. It's no rocket science there. And there's no secret there, but it's not nice probably. Maybe it's a bit irritating to the eyes, because let me just stop it again and then stop the presentation sharing. Tariq, otherwise you can do that, or you cannot probably. You can stop the. You can stop the stop sharing. This is the button. So let me reshare the document again. Apologies, everyone. So let me see what I have here. I think maybe now it should look better.
I think you may continue, Sagar. Please continue.
Yeah, I think it's better, sir. Sorry about that. So how do I move to the next slide? Yeah. So okay. So here we are. Okay, so here we are. So on the 20th century, the First World War established the rule of sovereignty in national airspace. And the rule of sovereignty was codified in a number of legislations or conventions. I'm not going to go into that. But the principle that led to the bilateral air services agreement between the states, opening up the possibility of commercial air services, it also led to the development of scheduled international airlines. So the point here being, it's the rule of sovereignty. So what was established post-World War was, so anything above your ground until the sky is basically belongs to you. So when an airline or an aircraft is flying above a certain jurisdiction, it has to comply with the rules of that particular country. Okay, so that's the rule of sovereignty in national airspace. That is the basic principle or the basic premise on which air law was constructed, and all that was codified into these certain these legislations. And the important one being the Chicago Convention on International Civil Aviation, that was in 1944. Okay, and what this basically led, what this particular convention of 1944 led was it opened up services from one country to another country, subject to an air services agreement. So you have to have a bilateral agreement between one country, between the countries, in order for airlines to operate on certain frequencies and so uh, on the pricing mechanism, and also on the capacity that they could carry. So it was kind of at the time in 1944 and for the next 10 to 20 years, it was all kind of very restricted. You know, all these bilaterals were mainly constructed in favor of the Western countries, where they were always, of course, they were always favoring more capacity, more frequency from their end. But then the other way around, from the Asian subcontinent or the African subcontinent, because of the negotiating powers that they have or they had in the past, it was not a very balanced air services agreement. But at an international level, uh, at least they could agree on certain principles, and the 1944 Chicago Convention allowed for those principles to be established. So I just wanted to give that, you know, it's air law is not new. It is something that has been around for a very long time. And here you will see on this slide, air law could be divided even further if you have it in mind. Oh, air law itself is very small, or probably what is air law? Then air law could be segregated in two categories. One category is in the public air law, and the other category is private air law. Okay, so under the public air law, it's mostly the Chicago Convention of 1944, which talks about bilateral air services agreements, and one of which, or one of the most important part of this agreement, is these bilateral air services agreement that are based on the air freedom rights. Basically, the air freedom right is the first right talks about any airline going from the home, so from India, for instance, to another country. It could be, let's say, Germany. Okay, so from India to Germany, that's the first right. And the second right is you could take because this was, you have to think from 1944 standpoint, there were no long haul flights. Okay, so flights had to land somewhere in order to fuel up. Okay, so they had to fly over some of these countries. So therefore, they had to get down or land somewhere and fuel up, and then go to the destination country. So that's the second freedom right that was agreed under the Chicago Convention. And so similarly, you have the third freedom right as well, which is the opposite. Okay, so you have the first freedom and the third freedom on the other side. The fourth freedom, sorry, the fourth freedom is the other way around. The most important of all these freedoms is the fifth freedom. The fifth freedom is basically, you can take an example of a flight that starts off in New York, okay, and then lands in Charles de Gaulle, France, and from France they come to New Delhi. So it's the fifth freedom which allows you so it's a US carrier coming to Europe, picking up passengers from Europe, and then bringing them on to India. So what they're doing is they have done the US market, they have taken a certain segment of the European market, and then they have brought the passengers to India. Okay, so the same if you take the other way around. So they start from New Delhi, they picked up the passengers from India, and then they get down. They probably will get down in Charles de Gaulle, or maybe in a different route, let's say Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, where people are dropped and new passengers on board in Amsterdam, and then they go to New York or Chicago, wherever. The fifth freedom is probably the most important freedom. So if you have time, read about it and the various scenarios that you can, or various routes that you can come across. What is interesting in the fifth freedom is, as times changed, where US airlines and European airlines are losing ground, and on the other hand, where the Middle East, Europe, and especially the Middle East carriers are picking up or have picked up a lot of market across Europe and in the US. The fifth freedom now has a different connotation, because let's say Emirates from Dubai, which is their hub, they cover almost every corner of the world. Okay, so then their network is built in such a way that they can bring anyone to their hub and then take them to any other place. And but at the same time, they utilize the fifth freedom. They have also brought a number of other airlines and companies in Europe, which allows them also to do the fifth freedom. So what they do is they start from Dubai, they come into Madrid, from Madrid they go to the US. Okay, so it's all about connectivity. At the end of the day, if your network is good and efficient, then customers will automatically will come to you, because you have less time to travel, and these days everything has to be fast. So and if airlines are able to provide that kind of a network where customers where it is customer friendly, let's say, then yeah, they'll win the market. So my point being there is, it is interesting for you to read the fifth freedom, because the US carriers, which have been very strong over the years, now complain that the Middle East carriers are basically um, you know how do you say, exploiting the fifth freedom, which is interesting to see, because over the years it's the US airlines, one could say, that have negotiated in their own favor and exploited. But now, because they're losing ground, they're also complaining that airlines like Emirates are exploiting. And at the same time, they also raise interesting issues like competition law. Because most of these airlines in the Middle East are subsidized by the state. So they're getting a state subsidy or state support, and therefore there is no level playing field. And therefore this fifth freedom is being exploited. So again, take time to read. It's these bilateral agreements or bilateral services, even though public air law or public international law as such would once in a while you might say, or you might find it boring. But when these kind of issues pop up, you will definitely see how countries negotiate, and how countries how the dynamics all of a sudden change. Okay. The other important freedom, right, is the seventh freedom, which talks about cabotage, or even ninth actually talks about cabotage. So cabotage is basically you can fly from US to New Delhi. Okay, these days you have direct flights. They can manage to fly. A 777 can easily do that. And from New Delhi, they pick up passengers. So that's domestic market now. Right? So they have not only covered the international market, but they are going to pick up Indian passengers from New Delhi and bring them to Hyderabad. Okay, so that means that the bilaterals could even allow a carrier to do domestic operations. This is very important, because not every country, because every country would like to protect their own national carriers. Nobody would like to lose their domestic market. But in certain situations, in certain countries, cabotage has been part and parcel of the negotiations, and has been a phenomenon that you will come across in the public air law regime. So I just wanted to point out, just to say that this is one aspect of public air law, but you could also see here there are a number of organizations that work on in the remit of public air law. But the other area that is also interesting these days is the penal air law. That's the I think there was a journalist or someone a year ago or just before COVID in India who was banned from one of the airlines, and I think was probably because of air rage or so he got angry or he was upset with some of the airline crew, and therefore one of the airlines actually even banned him. So it is air rage and the fact that that is only a very recent thing. But if I have to go a little bit behind, it is about terrorism. It is about security. So aviation is one sector which is highly regulated, and safety and security is a key component of the transportation sector. If the transport sector is not safe or is not secure, then there will be a total collapse because there's a total lack of trust from the people who are using that particular mode of transport or that system. So under the public air law bucket, let's say, or under public air law, there has been a lot of codification through various conventions, especially post September 11, which just 2 days back. So has actually codified about terrorism, about hijacking. So all those kind of rules and regulations and are part and parcel of that, penal air law. So under the commercial or private air law, you see the actors here: airlines, airports, aircrafts, and of course you have the legal, regulatory, and policy aspects that come here. It could be, I have listed out all the various conventions here, and I'm happy to share it as well later. But it's just to point out that a lot of codification in terms of private air law has also taken place. One of which, to give you a very simple example, is the passenger rights. So the fact that your flight is delayed, or when there's overbooking and therefore you're not able to get onto an aircraft. Internationally, they have come up with various rules, and especially in the EU, Regulation 261. I think you should definitely take the time to read it. If you're interested in passenger rights, then you should take Regulation 261 and then see what are the rules that govern passenger rights. Because I was telling earlier, I'll come back to you about consumer law. At the end of the day, like any other sector, we have a consumer to cater. And if the consumers are not happy, then whom are you going to serve? It could be an airline. So airlines are consumers to airports. Okay, so the airports have to perform really efficiently and provide the best of services to the passengers who are in the terminal, because it's all about customer experience. So I'm talking, you see, not just about law, but I'm also reiterating the point that as lawyers, we should also connect very well with the business. If not, we fail to, or at least this is what I have seen, that the fact that there are some of the, some excellent lawyers in the market, in the aviation market, but what I have seen is over the years that they have actually failed to understand how the market works. There are very few of them who actually understood how the operations of the business are, especially on the airlines and the airport side, and therefore are able to do much more than the usual lawyers do at a law firm or even in-house. So again, coming back to this particular slide, there are a number of things, so airlines have to take care of their passengers and they have to take care of the safety and the security. Airports talk about infrastructure, the terminals. So there is a lot to do with the construction, but what is important here is the distinction that we need to make. Airports have, they are basically governed under the national law. Airlines are governed under international laws, because most of these operations are happening border, so they're crossing countries. Okay, and aircrafts as such have their own rules, because aircrafts have to be certified, have to be safe and secure for people to be, or even for cargo, for instance, have to carry. So my point is also that there is a great need for good lawyers, good policymakers, good regulatory people, because who's going to do all these rules? Who's going to do? Who's going to make all these rules? If you're on one side, like me, taking the interest of commercial carriers, but on the other side, you also need a regulator who is efficient, who knows about this sector. So you will fall under one of these buckets, or you will fall under one of these streams, whether it's on the government side, whether it's on the private sector side, or on the academic side, where you have a neutral view, where you take a view to say that, like this is what we need to probably project, or this is what the new rules or the new policy should reflect. Okay, so again, those are some of the rules there. And the aviation market, just to give you a bit of a confidence, so the aviation market is quite big, or at least it is evolving. So the Indian carriers are projected to increase their fleet size to 1,100 aircraft by 2027. Freight traffic on Indian airports is expected to cross 11.4 MT by 2032, and government agencies project a requirement of around 250 brownfield and greenfield airports by, this is even 2020 they say, but I think probably it's likely the number might have already been modified. And India is the fastest growing aviation market and is expected to cater to 520 million passengers by 2037. And then India has been projected to be the second fastest growing country in the world for passenger traffic, and the demand for aircraft in India is expected to be 1,750 by 2037. So it's basically 1,100 in 2027, and then another 1,000 aircraft that is added, or more than 1,000 aircraft that are added to 2037. So in terms of the policy, what is happening? So the policy support to the sector, there's up to 100% FDI that is permitted in non-scheduled air transport services under the automatic route. So when we say non-scheduled, it is mostly basically for leisure travel, or how to say. So all the scheduled airlines are the one that have timetables, and your tourism activities, for instance, happen on non-scheduled air transport services. And then you have up to 100% FDI permitted in helicopter services and seaplanes under the automatic route, and up to 100% FDI is permitted in MRO for maintenance and repair organizations, flying training institutes, and technical training institutes under the automatic route. And then you have up to 100% FDI permitted in ground handling services, subject to sectoral regulations and security clearance under the automatic route. So my point here is that the government is also trying to bring in policies that support the growth of the sector. Okay, so they're opening the market in order for foreign direct investment to come in, so that it becomes easier for the sector, for the aviation sector to flourish. At the same time, able to deliver to the domestic market, but also cater to the international market. So that's a bit of the thinking from the government. But you see, it is not just only the airlines that are going to be benefiting out of this policy support, but they have also seen the other areas in the aviation sector. We talked about the maintenance and repair organizations. We talked about ground handling services. But what is important here is equally that you have a role to play in each of these sectors. So tomorrow you want to go and work in a maintenance and repair organization in the aviation sector, you have an opportunity there. You want to work in a ground handling service sector, you have an opportunity there. So do not think that when you talk about aviation, you're not just talking about airlines, okay? You have a multiple other organizations and other support sectors that go behind it. So just to move on, of course, we all had COVID, in the sense like the sector has been impacted by COVID, and you see here air passenger traffic with an overall reduction of air passengers from 48% to 61% in 2020. And airports estimated loss of over 50% of passenger traffic and 57% or over 97 billion airport revenues into 2020. So there has been a loss of 50% or more. There has been a decline of revenue passenger kilometers by 54.7%. And then if you look at the tourism sector, which is key for any country that basically sustains itself on tourism, and India is one country, there has been a big decline in international tourism between 910 to 1100 billion in 2020 compared to the USD 1.5 trillion that was generated in 2019. Equally important is trade. A fall of global merchandise trade volume by between 13 and 32% in 2020 compared to 2019. And the global economy, as you all know, of course, contracted by a certain percentage. So again, here you have airports, airlines, you have tourism, you have trade. Every sector you have a role to play. Okay, you come into trade, it opens up not just aviation but also other modes of transport. Tourism, it's also another sector that you're going to talk not only about aviation but other modes of transport as well. So my point is, it's yeah, everywhere you have a role to play. Okay, so whether in the legal side, whether on the regulatory side, or on the policy side. But overall, indeed, COVID has an impact on our sector, especially on the aviation sector. And at one point, I used this slide in another conference where they said, how long will these airlines actually survive or are able to continue, because there is lack of revenue actually, because there are no passengers, there is no revenue for the airlines. And some of these European airlines were basically saying they're going to hold on for 16 months or 8 months or 4 months or 3 months. But okay, Air France KLM got a state aid or basically the government support that is required, and a couple of other airlines as well received some government packages which went on to support them rather than folding up completely. What did happen during the COVID time is there's drastic reduction of fleets, there's staff cuts, fixed costs, reduction of fixed costs, accelerated closure of unprofitable subsidiaries, adjustments to security measures, and sluggish demand. So security measures would mean that there are more security measures, means more investment by airlines and by the airports. So you also have to think at a time when there are no revenues that are being generated in the sector, but at the same time, the government is imposing more and more regulatory measures in order to ensure that there's a higher security measures in place. And at the same time, like apart from security measures, it is also, COVID has also, made us to experience contactless payments, contactless travel. Okay, so all these things are happening. So just to give you the reality that it's as much as there's a lot of positive things, but COVID did have an impact on the sector, and it will continue to have an impact on the sector for some time. So again, this is one slide I would like to take 1 minute. It's just to say that, okay, this is all good. There's always good and bad. That's always happening in cycles. Every 10 years, 15 years, we always have a cycle where all the good things come to an end and then again restart, and we start finding opportunities again. But here is the future. Here is what transport is going to look like. Environment, technology, and transport. Okay, so there is a lot of, whenever we talk of aviation, do not see aviation sector in silos, whether you're a legal professional or a marketing professional or someone in the management role. Aviation is only one specific mode. Aviation needs to be supported by other networks, other transport networks, whether it could be micromobility, whether it could be your other modes of transport like your trains, your ride-hailing services, everything should be connected to the airport and then to the airline. Okay, so whenever you talk about aviation, try to have a broader perspective, and at the same time try to see how digital or digitalization is going to make a change in the transport sector, and at the same time how digitalization could reduce the carbon footprint of the aviation sector. Okay, so these are all important topics, and you do not necessarily have to be an aviation lawyer. You could be a technology lawyer as well, but then working on transport or aviation specific issues. You could also be an environment lawyer looking into these issues, or the other way around, that you could always have an aviation background, but then you can work on environment issues. Or I was talking about state aid, so you could become a competition lawyer, and you could you could work in a vertical like aviation sector. So my last slide, here are the roles that you have, or you could get into in terms of the opportunities for lawyers. So you have a legal, regulatory, compliance, policy, research, consultant. Wow, you see so many of them. So there's no dearth of opportunities. There's no dearth of roles, but maybe to find the right opportunity, you of course have to do something, and that something is probably through some study, either at Nalsar or anywhere. But what is important is the roles are out there. So do not think that aviation, or of course it's a niche area, but important is that it does provide all these roles. And you see here, I put on the right side of the slide, I say aviation law plus. The plus is basically the fact that you interlink, or the fact that you're able to combine your interest. So let's say aviation, if you think, hey, it's very difficult to find a job in aviation, then add it up, top it up as you do in your mobile phones or in your iPhones. You always have your upgrades. Just go out and look for the right area where you think there is more opportunity. So insurance law, for instance, it's one of the most boring legal areas, but fine, it has a lot of money out there and a lot of risk out there. When there is risk, of course, there's a lot of money as well, or there are more opportunities as well. So pick anything. Employment law. I talk about employment here because social or social aspects are becoming more and more relevant these days. The loss of jobs, the fact that employees are not treated properly by companies, or the fact that employees are not paid on time, or the fact that employees are having difficulties, in terms of health coverages. These are all issues that employment lawyers cover, and aviation lawyers could also take on and be and bring some value when they're sitting in airlines or any other roles. Trade law, as you know, trade is one of the most important things when you have to do exports and imports. When I talk about trade law, you can talk about customs, VAT, and pick anything. It's all linked. Okay. You talk about maritime and trade law. It's like a match made in heaven. Okay. So just think about all those areas out there. I know I've taken more than the 5 minutes or 10 minutes, so apologies, Lakshmi and sir. But I just wanted to make sure that I cover, at least give a bit of background, but at the same time also provide what opportunities are there for everyone. But again, there's a lot of opportunities out there. The market is difficult. Let's be realistic. The market is difficult. But what you have to do in the current time is to make sure that you're ready as and when the market opens up. You are available for the market so that you get absorbed into the market. So again, understand and apply the knowledge of property, contract, and tort laws. It goes without saying. But if you are very strong in contract law or tort law, half of your job is done, and you link it up with aviation rules, then much easier. There's a great need for subject matter experts in aviation because there are very few of them. So do not think that there are so many people out there. In reality, it is not the case. So go out there and do do your course or do your study wherever, I think there will be an opportunity coming by your way. And then again, it's a global industry. Okay, so aviation is a global sector. How much ever we think it's domestic, you could have the best of like you could have a big domestic market. It is still dependent on international rules. It is governed by, it is a highly regulated sector, and there is a need for lawyers, regulators, and policymakers. There are big transactions because every aircraft, as I said, costs a lot of money, and therefore needs support from the legal and the policy or from a regulatory standpoint. It is with low margins. So again, there as well, there is a need for us to be part of that, because we are always there to tell the business, by the way, you're going to spend more money out there if you go and do this. And sometimes you could, legal departments are also seen as a cost, but these days things have changed or evolved where legal departments are part and parcel of the management. So therefore, your role as lawyers have only become more important, and therefore, you have a bigger role to play. National and international laws, yeah, just it's all out there. So the opportunities are out there. Look for them and go and just do some studies, and you'll be, I think, ready for the market. I'll stop there. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sagar. I think an elaborate presentation, lot of takeaways, a lot of them. Like you said, yes, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And someone has to prepare himself, and what better way to prepare? And especially, like you said, the domain expert, the subject matter experts. Yes, the legal teams are part of the top management, and the legal teams have the domain experts and the subject matter experts. So that's where there are opportunities, especially for the people who are looking for second career option, or those who are transiting from one specialization into this domain. So that's where probably the training courses and the programs that are offered by Nalsar University stand out as far as this transition is concerned. So thank you very much. Lot of subjects you have touched upon, very nicely, lucidly explained. It's like, fantastic, Sagar. Thank you so much. It's wonderful, wonderful to hear to you. Thank you so much.
I'm not sure if it is fantastic, but I did my best. Thank you.
No, trust me, it's been fantastic. Okay, I'm sure the audience will also understand that and appreciate. Now, before we take on the questions and answer the questions, Sagar, I just want to take a minute. Minute is not enough to introduce Professor Balkisar Reddy. He has done so much at such a young age, and he is doing so much now. And he's been part of the Nalsar from its inception, being a founder faculty member, if I can say so. He has contributed so much to build this first the Air and Space Law Center, and now of course it is Center for Aerospace and Defense Laws. A person who has come from the difficult channels or difficult ways of learning, and learning always, studying in JNU, doing his MPhil and PhD from there in Air and Space Laws at that time. Very, very, the vision that he had, it is reflecting in CADL doing what it is doing now. Very interestingly, he has also authored a couple of books with his teachers, many more books, of course, and he is a very, very prolific writer, if I can say that. And his articles come out everywhere. He is a registrar. He is heading the Center for International Trade Law here in Nalsar. He is heading the Center for Tribal and Revenue, Land Revenue Laws here. He is contributing immensely to various state governments and the central government reviewing their laws. He has contributed with of course, in collaboration with ISRO for the space law, because he's an expert. One interesting aspect is what he wrote as part of his dissertation thesis, and also when he was writing that book with his teachers way back, has found a mention in the recent space laws that the government of India has brought out. There's something very interesting, how it has taken some time. for those things to be reflected there. But so look at the vision that he had. So that way, I think we must all thank him uh, for the contributions of contribution at the national level as well as the international level, because the aviation law is an international law, like you said. It's it's applied domestically, it's applied within countries, it's applied within states. That's okay as far as jurisdiction and other issues are concerned, but it's international in nature. The aviation sector itself is international in nature. That's why we have the ICAO controlling and IATA doing its bit. So that way, Professor Balkrishna Reddy's contribution is immense. Great contribution. Thank you very much, sir, for that. And now I request you to please, say a few words, especially on the programs that we have from the Nalsar and how they're going to be useful for the people. Of course, there are some questions that have come. We will definitely answer that questions. Professor Reddy is there. Sagar is himself there. And if there are issues that if I can pitch in, I will also add to the discussion. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think after speaking two of my, I don't say students, but of course, part of that I had to mention Sagar and of course Naidu sir also. Thank you very much, Sagar, for elaborate discussion. I was again, when I taught 20 years back to you, Erla, today I'm learning a lot from you. Frankly speaking, that is the, teachers always have, selfish thing. My students want to grow more, anyhow, coming to the center, few minutes I'll take, because we can have more questions rather than speaking ourselves. So what is the objective of introducing these courses? The object is simple actually: taking aviation education at the doorsteps of the needy with affordable cost. This is our slogan, I can say, and we are practicing. The object is, again, recent past, I am also writing few things on academic social responsibility. You have seen, corporate social responsibility, but nowadays, I am again popularizing that, academic social responsibility. What do you mean by that? This means that if Nalsar is the best, university, second best in the country, whatever, what is our contribution to the society? Keeping that in view, we do a lot of work. Part of that one issue here is again aerospace, defense, maritime education, because the earlier speaker spoke about that. I need not, talk much on that. There is a 100% lot of scope is there. I'll give you one example, like what Naidu sir mentioned in the introductory remarks, Sagar mentioned. Uh, India today, we have almost 1.3 or 1.4 billion population. It means that 130 to 140 crore population. If 1% of the population tilt towards from railroad, other modes to aviation, 1% means more than 1 crore, 1 crore 3 lakhs. So ECAO study conducted by this, I was part of that. So we need 1 crore population. Of course, it's a very, very minimal thing we are talking about, because today people are cautious about their time and all those things. So that's the reason why population is a liability most of the time, but when it's comes transport sector in general or aviation particularly, so it is an asset. 1% coming from that, 1 crore, and 1 crore to cater that we needs like hundreds of airports and thousands of aircrafts, all these. So there is there is no doubt that potential is there. Keeping that in view, of course, 10 years back, 12 years back, we started talking about the air law, space law, and now we included defense law. Our approach is one, interdisciplinary approach. Today, law alone would go and serve, management alone serve, technology. Today, it's a unique combination. I call it the Nalsar courses is a unique combination of law, technology, and management. Okay, so generally, it's a saying that law follows technology. Technological developments needs law. It is true with aviation. So Wright brothers invented aircraft in 1903. Within month, air law started, discussing about countries talking about the regulation of aviation. Similarly with other areas. So we believe in Nalsar that interdisciplinary approach. Looking at our past experience, our courses, most of our intake is coming from technical background, scientists, engineers. So what we thought that we should give two important components add to their knowledge, that is the management and also law. And most of the participants, or I can say students, their background is non-manage, technical, technical, non-legal and management. So our courses are, like we have a start from the introduction to law, then air law, international air law, domestic air law, liability laws. Similarly, other component management also. We start with introduction to management, then airline management, airport management, airspace management, air traffic management, all these things. So that's what I can say, unique combination. I can tell you as a student, as a teacher, this kind of combination is nowhere in this part of the world. And of course, these kind of courses, if you have to get, you have to spend 20-25 lakhs for 1 year course. Of course, Nalsar is because again part of the social academic social responsibility. Our intention is to spread the aviation education because lot of scope is there. That's the reason why it is affordable thing, and we are doing all these things today. Other objective is academic industry partnership, which is lacking, and Nalsar is actually trying to fill that gap. So we have a lot of industry collaborations. Again, we are helping those people. So like these are our basic idea to start. And today I can proudly say that of course the both previous speakers are part of the Cadel Center Nalsar. So what kind of job Sagar is doing, and also Naidu sir. So our intention is to take this at global level, national level, and India. Unfortunately, India, we don't think out of box. So we have to think what are the areas which have futuristic things. So if that is the case, aviation is one definitely. And I told population, because being a 1.3 billion population, India has a lot of scope. We need to have hundreds of airports, airlines, MRO. If you look at last 2 days, a lot of again news items appeared in the newspaper, because the Union Civil Aviation Ministry came, and he's talking about 6 airports in Telangana alone, 100 airports in the country. But do we have aviation schools, whether it's the law, management, or technology? So that's the question. That's why we thought Nalsar to supplement this emerging area, and we started these things combining law and management. And so I'll if you have of course our intention is not, but our main object why we are organizing this webinars, already moderator Naidu garu told, spread the message. Otherwise we don't have any other things. We want to spread the message. Then you can think whether you want to join or it's up to you. But these kind of courses available, this kind of opportunities available for you. That is the whole purpose of organizing the continuous webinars. So with this, Naidu sir, again, okay, we can take up some questions.
Yeah,
Then
we will. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for explaining the relevance of this webinar again, and of course the courses that we have. We have some questions, so we can probably take. I think we will quickly go on to take some questions. So one or two questions which were there initially, I thought I will only answer, sir. Please don't mind, because the questions are more relevant probably to my background. So there was a question on transferable jobs and impact on children education. Very general question. Why I thought I will answer is I have been in transferable jobs, and I have had that opportunity of always troubling my the bosses to transfer me quickly, because I was getting stale. Once the learning value was coming down, I would always ask them, "Sir, when next? Where next?" So that's how my average stay at any place was only 2 years. And trust me, it has not adversely impacted my children's education. In fact, they grew up as wholesome children, especially when, like, I was posted in a place in Bhutan, where even basic amenities were not there in that school. But trust me, the kind of change that these two children have brought to that school, the principal even now remembers. It's well over 20 years. Even now he remembers, he is in touch, saying your children have brought in a certain change in the perspective of the children who are studying in the school, and the standards have gone up. That's on one side. Otherwise, because we go around seeing cultures, because we go around seeing places, because we go around seeing different aspects of life in different perspectives, children also learn a lot of things. It's a positive thing. I think it's how we project. It's not that I have studied in Telugu medium throughout. I had my batchmates in the Air Force who are from Doon School, who are from BITS Pilani. It's not that they have done any better than me. I have done extremely well. I'm proud of saying that. So it's about how we explain to them and how the perspective is explained. When I moved, because my daughter wanted to pursue civil services, so she said, I want to study in Delhi University. When I moved over there in class 12th, when she was there, she did not know how to cross roads in Delhi. She never went on a private bus alone. Those things were to be taught at that stage, but that's okay. It was a matter of time. She got used to it, and fortunate. She is a civil servant. So it's not a, let's not look at it as a negative aspect. That's what I wanted to say. The other question is, how superseded army officers? I think this question, the individual can contact me. That's not a problem. But otherwise, supersession is an aspect of career. It has got nothing to do with professionalism. It has got nothing to do with my career aspirations across the transition. That's where the Nalsar courses are for. If there is a stagnation because of the organizational policies, because there is a saying that every individual grows till his level of inefficiency. That does not apply to the military, because the pyramid is so steep that everyone cannot rise up to his level of inefficiency. When they are still efficient, they are thrown aside. So that's where I must figure out what is required to be done. And that's where I need to plan. I have to plan out. That's what is required. It's not required that one needs to be superseded to plan. You can plan. I planned, and I was additional director general in Doordarshan and All India Radio, huge organizations. I was number 2 there. It is all planned, and it works. That's what it is. There was another question on BTech aerospace engineering, opportunities in drones. Drones is something which we have probably not covered too much because of paucity of time, but it's a huge sector that's opening up. India is taking extremely good measures as far as the application of drones is concerned. The policy regulation issues are in place. Within this year itself, we had twice the review of the drone policy. A lot of things are happening in the drone sector. 200 startups are already working. There are many more who are working. Corona has done a different thing to drones. Otherwise, earlier people found it easy to buy drones from China. Now that's not there. So there are opportunities for India. So of course, this gives a different kind of an opportunity. So the next question is, I am 25-year-old and should I pursue LLB considering the requirement to earn money? I have pursued my LLB when I was 40-year-old. And Reddy sir has worked before he pursued his LLB. He worked, he earned money while he was studying, pursuing his LLB. So it's in evening colleges. So it's like that. I did my LLB from JNV University Jodhpur because it had evening classes. It had classes from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the evening. I would go work in the office in the daytime and then go for the classes. So it's about what age you want to pursue it. It's not really relevant as long as you are serious about it and pursue it vigorously, pursue it honestly and sincerely. I think enough of questions I have answered. Now I must give some task to both of you also, sir. Sagar, this question is for you. Problems and issues in sale and leasing of aircraft. Can you just throw some light on what are the main problems in drafting sale and lease and negotiating the sale and lease of aircraft? Sagar, you have dealt with it extensively.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, absolutely. I think I already pointed out.
Yes.
You have to be really strong in contract law in order to make sure that when you're negotiating contracts, of course, at the end of the day, it is a matter of negotiating terms and conditions. So you have the lessor, you have the lessee. So the lessor who is giving the aircraft, lessee is the one who is taking the aircraft. But then in between, you have a bank who is sitting there with loads of money. So they'll have their own terms to make sure that it's like you go and buy a house. You don't get it for free. The bank is going to ask you what is your income, what is your what's your basically your business
paying capability.
Paying capability. So these are all general things. It's just that here the big difference is it's a movable property in comparison to a mobile property. So when it is a movable property, the fact that your aircraft is crossing jurisdictions, crossing borders, they do not have control, and that they is the lessor. So when you have a lessor in Ireland, okay, and you have an aircraft sitting in India, okay, so what is the issue there? Some lessee doesn't pay. Kingfisher did not pay for years. What happened to the aircraft? It was sitting duck. When it is a sitting duck of an aircraft that is worth 60 or 100 million, depending on which one you take, from A320 to A330, 100 million is, I mean, to earn even 10,000 a month, 10,000 euros a month is difficult. So imagine now you have an aircraft sitting for 100 million, and on top of that, you have a legal system which says that if there's anything that goes against public policy, then lessor does not have any right. Or in other words, they cannot take the aircraft back, okay, in case of a default as well. So, so there are a number of issues here. So I'm just talking about a very simple point, that it is a cross-border transaction that is already complicated. And then on top of that, you have the manufacturer. So you have the manufacturer who's going to manufacture an aircraft. And you remember the Boeing, which one is that now? The one that had
Max.
Max, yeah, that had some kind of a technical issue, and then there were airlines who bought it, and then of course there are financial institutions, banks who already lent money. You had lessors, leasing companies who already, who put big orders. Okay, because so the one point I'll just reiterate here: airlines go to a leasing company because leasing companies put on big orders, and they have a better negotiating power in terms of the terms or in terms of the prices. So therefore, your overall cost will come down. Okay, and then they will reroute it through some kind of a tax structure, which will allow them to benefit somehow. So that's also another angle. So it's a very broad question, and I can give you hundreds of examples of very vague answers. But my point is, it is an interesting area to go, and definitely there's money there. But one thing is for sure, you have to be super good with your contract law. I cannot even, state it in any other words. You have to be very good in terms of your negotiating uh, abilities. So make sure that you build that. If you do not have it, that's fine. You build on it. I mean, I was, Professor Reddy sir know me from my days in school or at law school. I was not a very talkative guy. I would sit behind, and I would just even sometimes did not even understand what the professors were talking. So that's fine. You evolve. And today I go in and I speak in front of 100 or 200 people. I don't get scared, because whatever I say, half of it, even if it makes sense or not, I don't, it doesn't matter, because you're out there, and you will somehow find a way. So again, leasing and sales transactions are key for the airline sector, and you as a lawyer will definitely have an important role to play there. So apart from just your usual contract law, your tax law, if you have an interest in tax, because at the end of the day, it's all about the way you construct your whole transaction. So for instance, you have an airline, of course, your lessor is in Ireland because your corporate tax system, or your corporate tax is lowest in that country. So it's kind of a tax haven for lessors. But then you route it through Cayman Islands, you route it through some other country jurisdictions where there are minimal costs for aircraft registrations. So again, we go back to the Chicago Convention. So aircraft leasing is a commercial side, but if you look into the public aspect, aircrafts have to be registered in only one country. Okay, so you could have a lessor sitting in Ireland, but the aircraft, and therefore the aircraft could be registered there, but then it's flying somewhere else. It cannot have two jurisdictions or two place of registrations. Again, to answer very in simple terms, it's very complicated, but at the same time very interesting to tackle all these questions in the leasing and sales side of things, because it's all big ticket transactions. Okay, so there are a number of areas. Even compliance is another area that you will get into, because at the end of the day, let's take a very concrete example. So imagine you have someone who's got a technical background, so they know about they're certified or type rated or type certified, however you call it, in B777 aircraft. These technical people have the ability to actually read all the safety, whatever the manufacturers give, because they are the ones who are actually looking and saying, okay, the warranty period for this particular landing gear is for this period. Okay, so someone who has the technical ability to read these rules and regulations or the contracts are the one who are doing these transactions. Okay, so it is, so as much as your question is relevant, it is still vague for me, but I'm just trying to put bits and pieces. So I hope it gives you a picture.
Thank you.
So I hope I gave you some.
I'll request Barker Studies sir to add on a couple of points on that.
So one question is repeatedly coming, like the nature of this courses start and the recognition. Friends, I wish to inform you that Nalsar is, created by Act 34 of 1998, and it's a proper university. Then we have all the recognitions they are talking about. So we ourselves as a university, and also we got all, recognitions, and I'm happy to share with you that Nalsar is highest scored, NAC scored university till so far, whatever the NAC things happened, 3.6 out of 4. So I don't think, we have a problem, and we got all those, requisite permissions and approvals from UGC. And it's not a private, we don't want to, deal with that kind of things. It's a proper recognitions, all those things are, part of our, like diploma, master's courses. So somebody was asking, that question, sir.
There is also a question I just want to add, sir, that PG diploma, why this change from advanced diploma and from PG diploma? That please explain, sir, because the UGC.
Yeah, this is a university. UGC, the Department of Distance Education, came out with the new rules. So if it is a 1 year course, they given liberty to the individual university. Either you put diploma or advanced diploma. So we are, now earlier it was same, diploma, but now we converted into advanced diploma because of UGC nomenclature. UGC distance education, has put, these parameters. So that's the reason why. Otherwise, nothing. Earlier we used to call PG diploma 1 year PG diploma. Now we are calling 1 year, advanced PG diploma.
Thank you. Thank you very much. On the leasing part, trust me, it's not a single man's job. What Sagar has explained, I have been part of the teams for leasing aircraft involving 4 parties. And it's a huge task. One has to really be good at the contract law, as he said. Coming to the next question, sir, for you, this question, ready, sir. One person is asking, what are the best courses? I mean, I don't know what are the best courses, but then I think you will be able to explain.
Again, it's a difficult to answer, but look at, what is your background of education and what you want to, go, which area you want to go. So that's why today I can, again, happily to share with you that, CADL is offering courses from deep seabed to outer space. You name any course we have, like maritime law, air law, space law, defense law. So depend on your interest and your, again, persuasion, but I can't tell you, but you can discuss with me, what is your background, then we can suggest, like,
yes, they can probably contact separately, individually, there is no problem. The other question is, how good are the opportunities for the freshers in the sector? This is one question which I also keep getting, so if you can just explain for the freshers.
Of course. Yeah, I also get these questions because how, friends, I wish to inform you that, again, my team is with me. 70-80% of my intake is already, like whether it's the Air Force officers or DGCA ministry, people know the value of aviation education, those who are part of the things. Of course, we get 20-25% freshers also. For freshers, it is a new, actually, kind of, again, employability. So now, like we were mentioning about hundreds of airports and airlines, all those things. So here in the aviation sector, you have a skilled, unskilled, semi-skilled, like all those. Depend on, again, your, educational background. But freshers, definitely, if one airport comes, for example, GMR, thousands and thousands of people, from manager level to, down. So it's a very opportunities are there, and I can say depend again, you don't think that, a lot of people will ask again. I'm, clarifying myself as again part of the course. They will ask, sir, if we do this course, will you give guarantee, a job get? I am telling you again, it's recorded. We don't give any job guarantee to anybody. Our purpose is to give education. If you have an education, again, you can get job easily. Like it is a like gold. If you have a gold, you can make any ornament. So our job is to give gold knowledge. That is the purpose of Nalsar being a public institution. We don't promise, we don't say anything about the employment. Our role is to give good education. Of course there are a lot of constraints, because getting a faculty is a very difficult in these courses. Like I always depend on people like Naidu sir. Yesterday I supposed to take one class, sir please go, because of those are difficulties are there. Not we are saying everything is fine, but in spite of that there are opportunities, we have to struggle. So our approach is that whoever did courses part of the cattle, then we are taking them as part of our teaching. Like Sagar is adjunct faculty, Naidu sir is a adjunct faculty. So like that, if somebody has done and if we see that they are potential, they are part of that. That is the liberty we have in Nalsar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. There is one question.
just wanted to-
What are the opportunities?
Naidu sir, if I
Go ahead,
may,
sir.
just to complement
Please,
what
please
Reddy
do that.
sir said.
Please say.
So in terms, it's a very usual question. So I had it 20 years ago when I did aviation, or even I stepped into that field. A lot of them, as I said earlier, were laughing at me and thinking, why I'm choosing this stream of law or this sector. But let me tell you one thing: the opportunity.
We are not going to ask you how much truckloads of money you made so far. Just give the opportunities available.
Not enough, sir. It's never enough, but good enough. So if that's of any confidence to anyone, then that's also something to share. But no, in terms of the opportunities for freshers, I think given the current market, it is actually the freshers who are in a better position. Unfortunately, it's people like you and me and Naidu sir who are somewhere in between. Okay, so just to turn it around, okay, it's not to say that one thing is more or less, because overall the market is weak. Okay, but for the freshers, it's a lot more easier, because the companies are looking for freshers because they also want to keep the costs low. But at the same time, if you have the credentials, you will be one of the first go-to person to be hired. Okay, so that's how I would sell it if I have to be a salesperson here. Okay, and secondly, no university in the world, and this is something I've said many times. You go to Harvard, you go to Cambridge, you go to Oxford. If they can give you in writing that they have a job for you, despite the fact that you pay $100,000, please go ahead and do it. It's not about the money. Take the promise. That's the most important part. If they can provide you a job, go and take it. Okay. So I don't think that's a question that one should even ask, to tell you very honestly and very bluntly. I don't think, and this is for all the listeners, I do not think you should look. I mean, we all, of course, are in need of money and we have to have a job. Okay, that's one thing. But the idea behind the course and the idea for you to take up a certain career path is also to see for yourself what is it that you are bringing to the table, both for yourself as well as for the business. Because if you do not add value for yourself, then you will not add value for the company. So even before you ask, it's like years ago when when my mother or father or I don't know whoever said, when you point out a finger, you have four fingers towards you. It's the four fingers that you make sure that they are all in order from your end with all your skill set. The four fingers is for you. The remaining one finger, you can say whatever you want, you can show. Okay, but again, the point is that's not a question that you should ask. I think the question for you, especially for freshers, is in the next year, if you're going to take this path, what is it that I'm going to do? Okay, you're going to take the course, but I will add it for you. Taking the course itself is not sufficient these days. Make sure that you build up your reading skills, your comprehension skills, you build up your writing skills, equally important. So by the end of the first year or 1 year, make sure you have 2 good articles in your name in order for you to show in the market that you actually understand the subject and you're able to actually clearly express yourself in 2 or 3 pages or 5 pages. It doesn't matter how long your article is, but for the hiring person, it should be clear that you have the ability to understand, write, and also express. And last but not least, in this 1 year, make sure that you build your network. Online, offline, doesn't matter. Make sure you go out and build your network, because your network will get you where you should be. I think I've answered that.
Yes, thank you, Sagar. I think Syed Ali was asking what do the hiring. I think you have answered that question as well in this. So that's a good.
Especially for freshers, especially
Yes,
for
yes.
someone, if let's say if Syed Ali is somewhere in the middle where he's got some experience, then so I also saw somewhere a question. So let's say you have an experience of 10 to 15 years on the technical side. You're a pilot, or you are doing something else totally, or you're someone in the maintenance or in the ground handling services. All your technical expertise will come super handy when you read all these rules and regulations, because you start understanding why the heck in the first place these rules are actually in place. Okay, so all of a sudden you start connecting the dots, and the first person or the go-to person for any company would be you, because you have both your technical background and your legal background. And then you are also the go-to person for a government, for the government sector, because the fact that you club both these two, you're able to tell them what the difficulties the technical side have, what are the difficulties on the legal side, and what are the difficulties you club together and say, by the way, the business is hurt or business interests are being hurt because they do not match in terms of what your government rules and regulations are asking for. You see that you could put it in any way, but the point is, if you just have to mix match your existing skill set, build on what you are going to do in the next year, and then I'm sure you will certainly find a place. If not immediately, but I'm super confident that you will find within a period of 3 to 6 months post your graduation. I have roughly seen that that's the time period for someone to be employed. So you will definitely be employed. But okay, then the question comes: why should I do only aviation? I can do some other course. Good luck. You can do any other course because it's an open market. It's an open society here. We are not stopping anyone from doing it. At the end of the day, it is your aspiration. You see, this is a bluntness that I picked up after coming to Europe as well. I tend not to be very diplomatic inside the thing, but it's also a reality. It's good to share. What you think as well. But I'll come to that point when I conclude why Indians lose out on the global side of things. But so the point is, at least you make sure what you want to do. Once that is clear, then rest is history. Then you're basically swimming in the ocean, and then you'll find your way to basically survive. But once you know that okay, swimming is not that bad, it's easy to swim, even if it's how do you say the currents are heavy, but you will get used to those things. But the point is, you have to be really believing that you're going to contribute something to the sector, as much as you want the money, as much as you want to do something. But this is what to me, I'm only talking here from the experience and from my own self. I have no clue what others do. There are much better people who might be sitting here to express their view. That's fine. But for me, I've always believed in the sector, and I still today and tomorrow as well. I think this is one sector that has always been contributing to the overall economy of each and every country globally, but at the same time has been totally underrated and have been taken for granted. So COVID was the first time that people realized that we are also humans. We are also a sector that is part of this economy. Okay, so that's the good thing. But still, there are so many rules, so many regulations that transport sector needs and also are probably not being adhered to. So therefore, do not have those questions like, what is it that I'm going to do? What is it that I'm going to earn? You will definitely get there. You will definitely earn. You can ask me in 10 years from now when you remember this particular conversation. But make sure you are in your mind, it should be clear, whether it's aviation, maritime, or space, or whatever you take, just believe that you're going to contribute something to that sector and you will get there.
Thank you. Thank you, Sagar. And sir, a couple of more questions before we wind up and request
I
you for
think
the
so.
concluding remarks.
Yeah. Last question we can take up.
Okay. One question
Somebody
is
is asking
about the opportunities to the ATCOs, because I have been an ATCO, so I just
Okay, you answer.
affection to that fraternity.
Yes, you answered that.
It's like this, immense opportunities, I must say, because ATCOs are dealing with regulations. ICAO regulations are the ones which they are bound by and they apply on a day-to-day basis. They have a knack to understand and discern the finer things. That's what it is. But otherwise, as far as the opportunities are concerned, immense opportunities. I was teaching in Air Force Academy when, of course, Reddy sir, we got together on this particular program. Almost everyone who were part of my department or the ATC school, almost everyone has undergone this program. Trust me, all of them are thankful to Reddy sir for initiating them into this program. And some of them have left the Air Force early, planned. And one is an airport director in a major airport. One is with the Honeywell in a very senior position. One is with the Raytheon. So they are all in fantastic positions. They say their understanding of things have gone up manyfold after undergoing the PG diploma. That time we did PG diploma in air loss and air transport management. So there are opportunities. Recently there was one person who has gone into media. There is one person who has gone into business development after doing this program from being an ATC officer. So there are opportunities. Similarly, for the naval aeronautical engineer, I am on retainership with one of the aviation companies where the head of the engineering is a naval aeronautical engineer. So there are opportunities. Opportunities are definitely there. Lot of opportunities. So I think we have taken a lot of time. Before I wind up, I request you for your
last one question, because somebody
please.
was asking about privatization of airports are going to bring employment opportunities. Definitely, that's what we are going to create hundreds of airports. That's what I gave example of Telangana. We are coming out 6 airports. So there is no doubt. So it is opportunities are there. So with this, I think sir, because already we have exceeded almost half an hour. Concluding this thing, I say again, vote of thanks. Particularly Naidu sir has done wonderful session he conducted. Again, he's my colleague and my friend. So again, Sagar. So again, I always a teacher again expect and today you have done your job again better. So thank you very much for you, Lakshmi, Tariq, and other my colleagues. Actually, they have done wonderful work. So Tariq especially and Lakshmi, they have taken all these pains to organize this webinar series. So again, of course, a lot of questions coming. You can send your questions, so we will answer that. So with this, I think sir, we will stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining. More than anything, thank you all for joining.
Yes,
without you all, this webinar would not have been successful. Thank you, Reddy sir. Thank you, Sagar. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay fit, and we are available. Reddy sir is available. Please send all your queries to him, or you can send it to me also. We will be able to answer. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Have a nice time. Stay safe. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sagar. Bye.